Hi everyone, welcome back or welcome to Black and White TV. We are your hosts. My name is Jamila Millette.
And I'm Sean Cooper.
And so at Black and White TV, we talk about topics that tend to divide us, tend to be very black and white. We find the gray, we find the color, and we laugh out loud, and we also get fairly serious depending on the topic.
Correct. I think one of the things that we're learning is it's okay to not have to make every conflict, every discussion, like have to be one or two or A or B.
Right. Exactly.
It's okay to figure it out, or it's okay even to not be sure that you're.
Are you allowed to not know something?
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay not to be.
You know what? It's also okay. Now that we're talking about it, it's also okay to read an article and not be an expert then. It's okay to read an article say...
reading part of an article doesn't make you an expert?
Yeah. Well, some people, it does. Have you noticed? And I've been guilty of this too.
For me, yes. I read the headlines.
Right.
And I know.
I read this one article and now I am smarter than whoever wrote the article.
Right.
Yeah. So it's okay. And that's the invitation that we are offering to those listening is just walk with us.
The other invitation we have for you is to subscribe, to comment, to like, to share with all kinds of kinds. And like legit, this is for all kinds of kinds. So kind of teaming up. Really.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like literally, if you can even do that right now, like pause and hit whatever your social platform is, your favorite one.
You're on Spotify, you're on iTunes, you can do that. So yeah, so those are beautiful things that you can do with us, for us, to us.
Yeah.
All right, so we are in a series called Listen, Learn, and Lean In. Those are our 3 pillars, if you will, for the workshops that we tend to do in these schools. And so we're going through the principles of being a uniter, and the first one is I will humanize others. So that's what we're talking about today, is humanizing and dehumanizing.
That's right. You have a definition that you're
So I do have a definition because we're going to play a very strange game in one moment. But we have to have just a brief definition of both, right?
Okay, before you do that.
Okay, what?
Before you do that.
Before I do that.
Let's go back. Like, we're going to play a game.
Yes.
We've already admitted it's a weird game.
Yeah,
it may not even be a game.
We're working with what to call it.
It's an activity.
It's something. It's something.
What is your favorite game? Did you have a favorite game when... Oh, let's start with growing up. What was your favorite game growing up? Hopscotch?
Did you tickle yourself?
Hot jump rope?
No, I was really bad at that.
Uno?
That was not. I don't know if I had.
Shoots and ladders.
Let me just tell you why I have such hesitancy with
Connect Four.
I was good with checkers.
Okay.
But the reason I hesitate is because I had a brother who was quite a genius child, and so any game we played, he would win like 700% of the time. And so it was not fun anymore.
Gotcha.
So then I was like, this isn't fun. I'm just gonna lose. I feel like I'm here for you to play games at me. So yeah.
Did you play Uno?
Yeah, we played all the games.
Yeah.
I played Monopoly, I played chess, I played checkers.
You just lost all the time. It's hard. It's dehumanizing.
It's a little sister syndrome. What about you? What was your favorite?
I liked all the games when I was younger, and then as I got older, I didn't like any of the games. I don't know why.
Any of them?
I don't know why. But now, but as a family, I get the value, or with friends, there is something fun about getting the board game out, and you can talk and hang out while you're playing a game. So we've been playing Catan, whatever it's called.
Sometime in kitchen.
Something like that.
We play a kitchen.
Ticket to Ride is another fun one. I know.
Never heard of these. Okay.
But games are a big deal. Like, they've blown up.
Yeah, so later in life, I was a fan of spades. I was a fan of I Declare War and Go Fish. I did like those.
There you go.
Because that one, he could not always win.
Yeah.
That is a chance situation. There's no skill and strategy, maybe. I also liked a game called Spit. There was no spitting.
Oh.
Did you play it?
But no, I don't know. How do you play it?
I don't remember.
Okay, but what you just said made me, like, did you ever play Spoons?
I've seen
Now I'm starting to remember,
Okay.
group games.
Yeah.
You know, like, Mafia.
Yes.
Yes, right?
But I play that later.
Yeah.
I play that later. Yeah, so later games, also high school is when I learned spades. And we were talking about this. So Unique is a Black female behind the camera. And we're talking about how there is a huge cultural something with spades, right? It's a game, but it's not a game, okay? Like having a certain partner is a big deal. Having certain, like, you just, there's certain things you cannot and you will not do, right? Be talking across the board and you don't, there's a controversial word even with something that people do that they're not supposed to do. Anyway, how do you feel about spades?
White people play that game too, though.
I understand that, but the way that we play might be different. Well, do you get intense about it?
No, I mean there might be some differences, but like a lot of games like spades where you have a partner and you don't want a lame partner.
You don't want a lame partner.
And if there's code speak or ways to communicate without the other partners knowing, players knowing, like all of that.
Yes. Okay.
But
what about dominoes?
I love dominoes. I didn't play that till later.
That's a later-ish for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched older people play. Like, so there's again, cultural components to that. So my people are from the islands, right? So Grenada, Trinidad, it's a huge deal for us. We had our friend from Chile earlier, and we were telling her that, like, the Hispanic culture, it's a thing there too. Black American culture, it's a thing there too. White American culture, it's a thing there too. But I think it's just different how, like, how much passion you're putting into the play.
So it's random, but maybe that's a takeaway for today's episode. Is one of the ways you can be a uniter is play a game with somebody.
Play games.
And then
hold on now. It depends on how people. Because some people get really
it could be a divider.
Right.
Play a game with kindness.
Yeah. Or you can play a game and you can just recognize that there are going to be winners and there's going to be losers.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. No, you're right. There was a game that our family was playing for a while called Irk. It is so much fun, but we had to stop playing it because everybody just starts yelling and arguing.
Because it would irk you?
Not in the like in a way that it kind of melts down and everybody walks away from the table, and then we're like, you know what? We should probably not play that game anymore.
So now my more favorite interactive, engaging games are Taboo and charades and things like that. That's my jam. Okay.
Because you just want to entertain people.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Okay.
Tell us a definition
Super simple.
Humanize. Since we're talking about the principle, I will humanize others. What does it mean to?
So the most simple definition that we can find is to acknowledge others' worth.
I like that.
Period. Proof. Okay. Which can lead to, because we didn't say that before, but leads to respect, humility, could lead to kindness, less judgment. Maybe a friendship, maybe dignity. That's what can happen if you humanize someone else.
What about dehumanizing?
If you dehumanize, that is a denial of full humaneness. It's a denial of your human beingness, right? And it can lead to disrespect, hate, fear, anger, canceling. It could also lead to worshiping people and idolizing. So, like, you can dehumanize as someone, like behaving as though this person is a demon or behaving as this person is a god. You can also objectify someone, and those can be dehumanizing things. So, this interactive, experiential moment that we're going to have is something that we did with the youths in the high school the other day, and I think it went fairly well.
Let's do it.
They were engaged. All right, so I'm going to share some with Sean, and Sean will share some with me. So I have an image here. I won't have an image for all of them. So for our audio listeners, just note that. All right, so we're going to start. So here's the person. Who is this, Sean?
Ooh, Beyonce.
That is Beyonce Knowles. Or Beyonce Knowles Carter. Mrs. Carter.
Yes.
Just depends on where you are. Right, so do you believe that she is more humanized or dehumanized? Can you back it up?
Yeah, I mean, so when we shared this image, at the high school this week, the first, I think, reaction in a good way is humanize, because generally I think people think of Beyonce as somebody who is respectful and shows people dignity. She's kind. So she, at least when I look at her, I think this is a person that's humanized because she also humanizes others.
Okay.
At the same time, a student said so wisely that she also is dehumanized in a way that a lot of celebrities sometimes are, because she's made almost into this like goddess type level of a human, and at that point she becomes more of an object, and then it's easy to attack her if she says something that you don't like, and so it can go both ways.
Yeah, and so on this same image we have some of her character traits. Is that character traits? I don't know, just parts of her that's true, right? So she's someone's older sister, she's a friend, she's a wife, she's a mother, she's a daughter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, which is a big deal. I mean, when you think about everyday life and when you're out interacting with people, and all of us are going to have tendencies to dehumanize sometimes because of stress, we're tired, we don't know them, whatever. And a way to humanize somebody is to think of them.
Yeah. Think of those things.
Yeah, those are important.
We share these things, right? You're someone's daughter,
right?
Sean.
I'm someone's daughter.
JK Lol. All right. So one who's not on here is Madam Britney Spears. What do you think?
Okay.
More humanized or dehumanized?
I would say similar to Beyonce, she is humanized, especially in recent months where in the news she's going through the whole custody issue, where the I can't remember the exact terms of the battle that she's going through legally.
It's like an autonomy kind of thing.
So she's going through that. She went through that with her father, with her sister now, and I think generally people think humanize her because you can relate to going through a family struggle like that.
So you feel like because of the empathy that she
the empathy. But like Beyonce, she can be dehumanized as well because the level of fame that she has, it's easy to not think of her as somebody's daughter, as a sister, as a friend. It's easy to just think of her as somebody you can attack and say anything you want without any repercussion to you, while it could do a lot of harm to that person.
Yeah. Okay, Sean.
All right, let's do one. Here, I got one for you.
You're flipping the switch here.
Let's hear.
Flip the switch.
Okay, how about this guy?
This guy, Joe Biden, is it Joseph Biden, the current president. So it depends on when you're listening to this, right? So current president of these United States, I believe that if I had to choose between humanize or dehumanize, that he is more dehumanized. And I think that happens with anyone who is in that particular space. It's like, I think like leading up to before presidency, you might be actually more humanized, and because people are looking for ways to humanize and connect to you. And then once you're president, it's like, well, you can't be a regular human anymore. You need to be some kind of superhuman. And so, I think you get less empathy for any decision that you make, and it's going to be more scrutinized. But
at the same time, like what we taught the students this week, he's a father, husband. You pointed out that in his life, he became a widower and lost a child through a car accident where both his wife and son, one of his sons, passed away. He's a friend, he's a brother. So it doesn't mean that you have to believe like politically what he believes. But it does give you pause rather than just demonizing him, attacking him, to think of who this is as an individual, as a person.
As a whole human. Look at that.
Which is sort of like this person.
Right, so we're looking at Sir Donald Trump, and same thing, I believe that he is more dehumanized, and on both sides, like he can be demonized and he can be like a god, like the way people may portray him. And so, I think it's a twofer, but more in the dehumanized part.
Yeah, and again, similarly, he's a father, a husband, He's a friend to many. He's a survivor from child trauma that's been historically documented.
Yeah.
He's a son.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I mean, no matter where you land, let's just say politically, it's a way for us to consider, how do we dehumanize somebody just because they have a position that we don't agree with, rather than seeing them as a person.
And it's not just a position, right? Sometimes it is their choices, it's what they did, right? What you do, people will attack what you've done and all those kind of things. But again, it's not to say you have to agree with someone in order to humanize them. Right? So that's just a note. You don't have to agree. Let's do a couple more. So one would be a dog or a pet.
A pet or a dog.
Yeah.
I mean,
or a dog.
Dogs, like, it depends.
Depends on what?
Well, it can depend on, some people had a bad experience with a dog. There are certain breeds that are controversial, and some people fear and think they should be eliminated.
Right. Oh, that's what you were saying when you said, what did you say earlier, Unique? Zootopia, which is showing multiple layers of, like, there's a human component that they're talking about, but there is the animal component as well.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think generally speaking, when you think of, like, a statement, a dog is a man's best friend, the reason we have those type of cliches is because dogs don't care who you voted for. If you had a bad day, like, no matter what your day looked like, or who yelled at you, or if you got fired, whatever happened, they're still gonna come and crawl in your lap and just love you for who you are.
Right.
But I think for that reason, and those are good things, like, those are great things. But I think, unfortunately, what happens is with pets, it's easy to humanize an animal in your home and love it and feed it the best food and coddle it and buy it things. And then you step out of your house and just cut somebody off, scream at people, attack them, this other, like, real human person. And somehow I think we disconnect a little bit and treat animals better than we treat humans.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I get it, right? Humans hurt humans.
Right.
Sometimes animals hurt humans, but on average, right? That's what the issue is that humans can be cruel and unusual to each other, and therefore, because I've heard this argument from people whom I love and adore, who are like, no, animals are better than humans, and I get it. It's just that of what we are inviting people into, that uniter filter, if you will, is that of, can we humanize people no matter what they do or don't do?
Right.
Just start there with just giving them some worth, some dignity, some respect, even if they're not respectful.
Right. Starting with worth is a big one.
Yeah.
I think another one is when you can pause and realize that that person is, like we just identified with these other individuals, they have real struggles. Social media, we all know that social media, the news, movies, it makes people look like their lives are perfect.
Right.
If I see somebody, at a grocery store and they do something that I don't like, it's easy to just judge them and attack them. But these are real humans. To pause there and start there, it's a big deal.
People be going through stuff. So another image that I'm not showing is it was a man without a home is how I would describe. And I don't know, I feel like that definition is so different, even though we're saying, like, a homeless man, a homeless person, or a man without a home. I even feel like there's empathy even in that, right? Like, but anyway, so what do you think? Are they more humanized or dehumanized?
Yeah, it was interesting when we asked the students that question, they naturally said all the things that most of us think when we're at an intersection or somewhere and see a homeless person. This person's lazy, this person should get a job, this person...
Or they might use it for, if I give them money, they're going to use it for drugs or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we talked about that, and you brought up a good point that of course, there's probably truth to some of those things, but the reality also is, what was the percentage of...
Over 75% have mental health disorders.
Right. So it's complicated. And again, it's like, humanly, we are so wired to want quick solutions, black and white. The guy should just get a job.
Right.
If you just get a job,
then everything will be okay. Watch The Soloist. Watch that movie.
Yeah. It's complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated. And that's what we're saying, right? Things are not always black and white. It's
right.
Sometimes there's something in between. There are things that are good and there are things that are bad. But a lot of times we decide.
Right.
Like, we just keep deciding. And if we keep doing that, we will keep separating. We will keep dividing, right? So, yeah, good job.
That's good. That's good.
Well done, Seth.
Well, one of the ways that we've talked about the pandemics impacting not just 2020, but here we are in 2022. It not only made things difficult for everyone, those types of pandemics make things even worse for people who are already struggling.
Right, for sure.
You know, and so one of the ways that we can be mindful in humanizing other people is to think about those that were already feeling dehumanized before the struggles.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we were doing some research and talking about how, you know, even whenever there's a major world event or a tragedy, or in our case, something like COVID, typically what happens in all the research is, let's just take suicide as one subject matter. Amazingly, there's usually a decline in suicides after a tragedy. You know, there's a lot of research on why that is. When it comes to COVID, some people think, well, people were put in homes around people. There was less space to be isolated and by yourself. That could also have been a problem for some. So they don't really, there's a lot of research on trying to figure out the why with COVID. But interesting, even though there was a decline in suicide overall, there was actually an increase in suicide among those who are marginalized, who are already feeling oppressed. What do you think about that?
I think it makes sense. Sometimes people might look at it and be like, wow, you know, 2020 made this happen or made something happen, but a lot of things it was already there. Like the killing innocent or killing unarmed Black people happened plenty throughout history. It just was magnified, amplified because of how concentrated it was, and also the country was watching, right? You know, we had political divide prior to. It was just amplified because of the various things that were happening. We had social unrest, we had canceling before. Everything was just like turned up, right? And so if you had depression before, it may have become even more severe. If you were alone before, and then you were alone, but everybody was like, still, you just couldn't even connect or engage with people, that would intensify during that time. So, you know, so I think all the things that were, like I said, already there, it just exploded. And so it makes sense. Yeah.
Well, and it's an opportunity for us, as we talk about what it means to be a uniter and to humanize people, is to realize everybody's fighting a hard battle. That quote, you know, be kind. Everyone's fighting some type of battle.
Yeah, you know nothing about.
You know nothing about.
Yeah.
And if you knew, it probably would change things a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Because somehow, no matter how hard-hearted we might be sometimes, or how discouraged or angry we might be, all it takes is to realize that part of somebody's story that where they're at the bottom, they've been devastated by something, they're dealing with some issue that you have no idea about, and once you know, it just changes the dynamics.
Yeah, or if you could even imagine if it were you, or if it were someone you loved, how would you treat them differently, potentially?
Right. Yeah, I was sharing with you earlier about how I took a group of students to Germany some years ago, and we went to a concentration camp, and it's a heavy experience. It's kind of, you're seeing firsthand a lot of what you see in movies and read in history books, but some people were deeply moved. Some of the students were in tears and just kind of wrecked by everything. And then others were saying to me privately, hey, I feel bad because I'm not feeling those emotions that they're feeling. And I don't know how to feel what they're feeling. And we talk about how it's okay, everybody processes things differently, but one of the things that you could do is, because it's hard to imagine like these millions of people that you had no relationship with at a time when you weren't even born, one way is to imagine your best friend being in that concentration camp, or your mom or dad or a loved one. It doesn't necessarily change everything, but it helps to realize, okay, that takes it to a different level. The gravity of that is deeper.
Yeah, I agree. And it does make me think about slavery and how people can detach from that and say, well, I had nothing to do that, or my such and such didn't have anything to do that, or any of those, I didn't have anything, so I can kind of detach from that, and just recognizing that just because something is not happening currently, or it looks different, or you don't feel a way, recognize that there are people who do, you know? And so it's not to be like, you must feel bad. It's just, can you empathize? Can you stop for a moment and listen?
Right.
And learn, and then lean into someone else's story, right? Like the whole premise behind the Holocaust and slavery is dehumanization. And that's what we're talking about. If we keep dehumanizing people, we will keep treating people as though they're not,
right? Even
less than an animal, right? So, I mean, not to say like animals are less than anything, you know, but I mean like you're demonizing beings.
Right. Well, another area that we are having a lot of firsthand experience and on the ground viewing is the whole area of violence. Even this week, we were having a team meeting, and in the middle of that meeting, just a couple days ago, all of a sudden news started flashing that there was a shooting at a local high school here in Central Florida, one that we go to and do workshops.
Literally, we were there the next day.
The next day we were there, and a lot of students were gone because family pulled their kids back for that next day. There was a lot more police on campus, a lot more teachers, and volunteers, trauma counselors. We were there doing some workshops, and again, violence is another place that we're seeing when you dehumanize people, when you make them objects. That's one of the results that we get.
Or you even would condone violence towards a certain group of people because you don't see them as human.
Well, this has been good. I think we're still scratching the surface. But hopefully it opens up the conversation, you know, even for all of us as uniters. What does it look like to play a board game with your family this week? You know, invite some friends over and have some fun, but also talk about what does it look like to dehumanize people, versus how can we grow in humanizing others.
You can play our very strange interactive.
We gift you our game.
You can do that if you want to after we play spades or dominoes. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us at Black and White TV. We want you guys to continue the discussion and listen, learn, and lean in. Be a uniter.
We'll see you next week.